start of the game, the motivation for the guys is obviously, for Vito anyway, the motivation is that he wants to do the honourable thing for his family, you know. His father was a bit of a loser, he had a dead-end job, didn't earn much money, so his family was poor. So when Vito comes back from the war, he has to deal with these problems with, for his mama, you know. He'd do the honourable thing and look after his sister and his mama, hopefully find a better life for him. So that's the motivation for him, sort of starting to take work from the mob.
Yeah, Mafia.
Joe's motivation's a little bit different, you know. He wants the girls, he wants the cars, he wants he wants the sort of glamorous lifestyle that he thinks the mob's going to bring him. And early on in the game, it does bring that glamorous lifestyle, but once they get to sort of made men status, they sort of realise that actually it's not so glamorous, you know, and it starts descending to a pretty dark level. Having the game split over 10 years of Vito's life works really well for us to introduce different content. Like a new weapon becomes available, new cars become available, because you progress quite along nicely in Vito's life.
Want to wash your shorts before we do this?
They start out as small-time crooks working for the mob, ultimately, so no one gives a crap about them in the street, you know. Outside of Little Italy, no one knows their name, no one knows who these guys are. You go in a shop, you go anywhere, you have to pay for everything, you know, the police are on your ass. But as you become a made man, stuff starts coming for you, you know, I mean, made men don't steal cars, they don't have to steal cars, you know, cars get brought to them when they need a car, you know, I mean, they don't pay for weapons, they don't pay for suits, you know. I think what we've got in Mafia 2 is we've got a combination of the two things. We've got something that is realistic to the era, but also at the same time it allows, it's conducive to great gameplay. And naturally, obviously Mafia 1 was set in the 20s and the 30s, so the cars were sort of a lot slower, you know what I mean, pretty basic level. So naturally, by having it in the 40s and 50s, cars are faster, you know. Done. In the demonstration that we showed, we had the HUD switched off, you know, because it's not sort of final yet, so we didn't want to show it. But we're obviously going to just have to break the fiction for these sort of things. We can do it in a nice sort of stylized way, so at least it fits the era and the period. But ultimately, we're going to need to have a GPS system. The game is a lot less forgiving about this stuff, you know. You have to gameplay has to bend realism sometimes, and we're much more accepting of that. The police system, the driving itself. The police system is a love and hate thing. Pretty much everybody loved the first time they got a ticket, and then pretty much they hated it the second time onwards. The police are still going to give you tickets if you go through a red light. The police are still going to ding you for speeding. I mean, because it comes back to this whole realistic, fictional setting that we want to create. But one thing that we have is there's going to be fat cops in the city, you know? And we play with the fact that police didn't have as much high-tech shit. Police didn't have as much high-tech stuff as they have today, so we can use that to our advantage. So, for instance, where the fat cop scenario works is you get dinged by a police officer pulling a gun out in public. You're not firing it, you're just pulling it out, and somebody's like, hey, man with a gun. Police goes, all right, starts chasing after him. You run 2 blocks. This fat cop runs 1 block and he's like, you're like, see ya. You stand in the street, you murder somebody, then he's immediately radioing in for backup, and then they're going to come after you seriously. We have different types of wanted system as well. We have a car wanted and a person wanted. So, for instance, in the demo, we was in a car chase, the police started coming after us. At that point, you're wanted for the vehicle you're in. They've identified this vehicle as being wanted. You go down a back alley, out of sight of the cops, you can switch vehicles, you're no longer wanted.
He's in a trunk. What?
As well as that, Vito can actually become wanted, and Joe can become wanted, because the cops saw you shoot someone in the street, and the only way to get rid of that is to change your clothes. Maybe even in certain missions, like for the end of the Empire Arms mission, is changing your clothes is not good enough, you know. Ultimately, you've blown up this hotel. So you actually have to end the mission, which is sort of the end of Vito's day, and then we allude to the fact that he had to lie low for a couple of months. We've got weapons that you'd expect in the 50s and 40s, you know. We don't, and weapons that these mobsters would use, we don't do anything really erratic. We actually see the gunplay much more akin to something that you'd see in a third-person shooter nowadays, you know. We utilise a cover system. We have this whole thing that the combat is deadly, you know. When you shoot people in the head, they die. When people shoot you in the head, you die. So naturally, a cover system is a thing that works. We see that you're shooting probably less guys, but they're more difficult to kill and stuff like that. They use the AI they use, and they use cover themselves, and they'll stay in these sort of environments and use them very well, much to good effect. Like I said, it's the biggest change for me over Mafia 1, Mafia to Mafia 2, you know. The combat took place in these places, whereas we're really heavily sort of like tailoring the sort of like the details in these environments to be conducive of really, really good combat situations. So with the music, we have a huge orchestral score as well as with the first game, and you heard a little bit today, and that's going to be done by the Prague Philharmonic Orchestra. But then as well as that, we have this dynamic radio system. You're driving down the street and it's pretty relaxed, and the radio's playing some nice relaxed sort of 50s tune as you'd expect. Then all of a sudden you get in some sort of altercation and it turns into a car chase. Then what we can do is we do like a news report or something to break the song. And the news report might be talking about something else in the scene, not necessarily what you're doing. And then when we come back, it'll be like, right, now we're changing the pitch a bit. So you're getting a bit more like a rock and roll tune will start playing, and it really fits the sort of mood.
When did you become a smart one?
Fuck off!
There's some subtle hints that Mafia 1 fans will be like, that is super cool.
Yes.
We're not revealing what that is though today.